Good evening, Mr. Bond fans. If you know anything about this channel, you will know that I love me a James Bond video game, and they certainly don't come any more iconic than GoldenEye. Nope, the other one. No, not that one. Right, yep, there we go. So I have been excited for a little while now about a documentary film that has been in the making for some time, GoldenEra, which is finally being released, and it is just about the most comprehensive, definitive, and just outright entertaining documentary I have ever seen, chronicling the inspiration, development, and legacy of that iconic N64 game. This is absolute must-see stuff for fans of the game, obviously, but also just Bond fans and game fans in general. The film features interviews with the development team, who talk about the relatively unlikely story behind how the game came to be. It's real lightning in a bottle stuff that they managed to capture, and some of the stories they tell are just fascinating, including one of my personal favorites about how the likenesses of Sean Connery, Roger Moore, and Timothy Dalton were in the game, and then how that ended up being nixed. There's also a lot in here about the GoldenEye legacy. The film does a great job juggling a lot of different narratives, from the more personal stories of the team making the game to the impact that it had on an entire industry, and of course the James Bond games that followed it. I saw the documentary very recently and absolutely loved it, so I was over the moon when writer, director, producer Drew Roller agreed to have a chat with me about it. I had a good few questions to ask him just about how his film came to be, like what his own personal relationship with the GoldenEye video game is, and he in return, quite rightly calls me out on placing GoldenEye number 6 in a recent top 10 James Bond video games ranking that I made. Here is that conversation. I hope you enjoy. I am very excited to be here with Drew. Well, actually, Roller?
That's correct, Roller.
Roller. Yep. Director of GoldenEra, which is a very exciting new documentary. Drew, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us in your own words what GoldenEra is all about?
Sure thing. So, short story, I'm a design professional, I guess you call it. I've worked in the software industry, and I transitioned into filmmaking. And my second feature film is a movie about GoldenEye, which is is the best game ever made. I'm sorry, Calvin, you're wrong about that. That it's the sixth best James Bond game ever made. It is the best game ever made. So,
oh no, you saw my video.
I did. I've done my research. I'm a massive fan of that game, and that game sent me on a trajectory, a life-changing trajectory. I wanted to learn about making games, and I ended up working in the games industry and software, and having a very successful professional career. And I got into the creative arts industry, and it ended up with me making films, really, ultimately. So GoldenEye kind of sent me on this full circle, to the point where I took that obsession that I had with that game and I turned it into a movie about the making and the legacy of that amazing game that was made in 1995, 6 in the middle of the English countryside, Yeah. And coming from Australia, it's a game that's affected the whole world, right? So, but we've got a connection as Australians. We love the English, and so it's a lovely story of those 9 rookie developers that made a game that changed the world.
Well, I did want to start this off by saying that I saw the film last night and I just absolutely loved it, and I just want to congratulate you and thank you for creating something that is like so entertaining, informative, but also like really definitive, and it's such a polished product. Like I've seen several like very well produced GoldenEye making ofs, over the years on YouTube and whatnot. This one that you have made feels like it is the definitive. It is going to be the go-to for Bond and game enthusiasts forever, I think. So just thank you so much for that.
I appreciate your thanks. It means a lot to come from someone like you, who's such an aficionado of James Bond, and the games intimately, and it means a lot. I think it's a testament to the great team that I built around me in terms of my writing partner Brock Power, my producing partner, who is my fiancée Jenny McCloy, and my composer, I think, was a superstar, Tweak Lab. His pseudo name, and he wrote all the music. And like the game, the music in the film is a really profound component of it. It really sort of tells a lot of the story and drives a lot of the narrative. So, and you can't help but hit the target when you speak to people like yourself who just exude passion and love for this game. It kind of oozes off the screen. So, but I really appreciate you saying that.
Oh, no, well, it's lovely to be able to talk to you, honestly. I was so excited building up to this. So you mentioned just about the crew there as well. I'm just curious, like from a production standpoint, like how long did this take to make? How big a crew did you have? Like you interview so many different subjects. I'm assuming that there was a lot of travel involved, and certainly over the last couple of years, that wouldn't have been an easy task. How was the process of actually making it for you?
It was a long, arduous one. So
Mm.
it started about 5 years ago too. So
Oh.
we ran a crowdfunding campaign in 2017. We didn't hit our goal, but we sort of raised interest, and we started building a network of people that were really passionate about making this film. And through that, I met my executive producer, James Miskell, who's in the film, and he makes his own movies about GoldenEye. He's made two mockumentaries. Like they're comedy feature films. One's called Going for GoldenEye, and the sequel is called Bringing Back GoldenEye. So through Jim, then we kickstarted the principal photography in 2019, and then we most of the shoot was throughout that year. We went to the US, the UK, Canada, and we shot in Australia as well. And then 2020 pandemic kicked in. It kind of put the brakes on any international travel. It totally put the brakes on it. But we just hunkered down for the year and a half after that, and went into post-production and polished the product up, and fine-tuned the story, and then worked on the narration elements and sort of put the puzzle together, because we didn't really have a well-defined story. We knew going into this that there was great elements. We knew that the story of the development of the game was unique and incredible, and we knew that the legacy of the game, that the games industry impact of GoldenEye was huge, right? Off the charts. It's probably one of the most profound influences on the games industry altogether. And then we knew the nostalgia trip part of this would be kind of a no-brainer. If you reconnect people with the memories of multiplayer and the first-person experience and that 3D world and the opening up that came with those games in that era and on that console in particular, of the Nintendo 64, I don't think you could fail, if you sort of hit those three notes. So yeah, 2017 was kind of the start. It was we were nurturing the idea, building a team, and putting financing together. 2019 we really kicked into action. 2020 through to 2021 we were polishing, and after that it was basically about the business end, right? Trying to find the distributors and getting all the deals together in terms of getting it out there to the world. And we're really excited that we're working with Altitude in the UK on our release, which comes out on the 27th of June, which is very exciting.
Well, I was going to say, like, it's kind of worked out quite nicely in terms of release poetry. Like, we're in the 25th anniversary year of the game. It feels kind of appropriate that there is this new documentary here talking about it.
Yeah, there's a buzz about, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's really, yeah. So that definitely helps us, and yeah, and I imagine it's going to help drive interest in the film. So, and whether or not we get the HD re-release, the people keep hearing rumors, and now we're seeing weird things on the Xbox Live boards or something, or there's in 2022, and I have a theory that there's no way, because we've done a lot of research into this, there's no way Rare is still working on this game 13 years after, or 2008, I think the HD release was meant to come out, a 10-year anniversary. and it got canned, right?
Yeah.
It didn't. The deal fell through. We think it's Nintendo who was holding it up. And there's no way they're still working on this product without a deal in place. So that's my opinion, right?
Right.
There has
Yeah.
to be, yeah,
Yeah, no, it seems that like when you see the Xbox arcade, like, you know, the challenges and whatnot, it's yeah, I really hope it does come out because it feels like it's just been teased for so long now. And you talk about in your documentary as well the remaster and kind of what was
yeah.
kind of behind that, which is really fascinating. There's kind of no stone left unturned in terms of
I-
GoldenEye's
It,
legacy.
it's, I mean, I'd like to throw you a question,
Oh,
you know, in terms of, do you really think, and I have this theory that we can never recreate the magic of GoldenEye of
mm,
1997 and that time and that era. And I feel like any attempts to try will be somewhat futile. Um, but you know, there's never a corporation who won't try and make a buck out of nostalgia, right? So
yeah.
there is that. But I'm a bit torn. I would love to reconnect with friends online, but I think there's no substitute, and I think the films, you know, encapsulates this. There's no substitute for that couch and those long nights, you know, and the twisties or Cheetos or whatever it is that the horrible food that you were eating and the drinks that you were drinking, all that sugar and goodness. But the beautiful thing too about the HD re-release being put on hold or not, the deal not getting done was that the fans came to the party, right? In the film, we talk about GoldenEye Source, which is this
Mm,
fan product, a fan-made multiplayer HD product that probably wouldn't exist if the HD remake made it onto store shelves.
mm,
So out of that sort of tragedy, there blossomed this incredible global community that came together to rebuild and recreate using these new democratic tools that are available to us now. The game engine technology that's really come online. They use those tools to build what they said. No, corporations, you can't give it to us. We'll make it ourselves. So that was
yeah.
special.
Have you ever played any of the? Because I know there's been projects like Goldfinger was made as a game in the style of N64 GoldenEye, and I think there's No Time to
Yes,
Die or Tomorrow Never Dies. Have you ever played any of those?
I've seen them. I've
Uh,
got to be. I've got a sort of dirty secret. I
go on.
haven't played many other James Bond games, right? That's my little expose on the Calvin Dyson James Bond YouTube channel. I am an expert. I am an expert on GoldenEye. That is my forte. But I have seen these mods that you talk about. You know, the modding
Mm,
community is part of the GoldenEye story and part of the film. We see the Source community, right? They built the multiplayer HD, and then we see the mods, like they made Goldfinger, as
mm,
you mentioned, and that they've used the GoldenEye engine, which we also harness in the movie. We've used the
mm.
engine to recreate some scenes from Rare HQ back in the day.
You've got some
But they've
great
used
like
that.
animations in there. Like it's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we're really happy with that stuff. That kind of gives a great character to, because all the team, the original team, you know, and we should talk about them, but the team
Mm,
put themselves in the game. All their
mm,
faces are in there on characters, right? So we
yeah.
took that opportunity to recreate some of the pivotal moments in the development story at Rare HQ in Twycross in the UK. But yeah, the modding community in GoldenEye is huge, and there's something about that game that inspires in creativity, whether it's
Mm,
documentary makers, mod makers, musicians. Speed running is another sort of weirdly creative or obsessive and, you know, innovative. They're constantly looking at new ways of solving the puzzle of the dam level, right? There's
yeah.
all this kind of it just brings out this sort of inspirational characteristic in people. And that's kind of, I think, the story of GoldenEye the GoldenEye game is that it kind of just inspired people. There was an inspirational element of awe that really resonated with a lot of people.
I love the part of the
'Cause
documentary kind of talking about that, where some contributors sort of talk about the discoveries of like turning a corner and seeing one of the guards like, you know, scratching their behind or something, or shooting in a leg, and then those
yeah,
kinds of things kind of spiraling in a way to sort of, okay, well, what if I try doing this? And that sandbox element of it was really exciting back in the day, and
yeah.
I still kind of think it is now. It's like, you mentioned that, you know, you've not played many other Bond games, but did you play either of the GoldenEye cash-ins, I want to say, Rogue Agent or the Reloaded, the reimagining?
No, I didn't. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, and I think what it mostly comes down to is I'm not much of a gamer anymore. I've got
Mm.
young children. I'm balancing a career with a filmmaking hobby. There's a lot of spinning plates. Um, but what I would, because I just watched your video about the top 10, I think it
Mm.
was, James Bond games. And I was completely outraged that it was number 6. GoldenEye was number 6. My fiance was like, calm down. It's okay. And I'm like, I'm going to give Calvin a piece of my mind. But I would, you know, for me, GoldenEye has this immense, we talked about the attention to detail and the immersiveness and the, you know, the guards scratching the bum and that sort of exploration element. You know, you have all these sort of bonus characters, and do you not see GoldenEye as the best example of games that used every element of the James Bond universe, or are there games that did that more? Because
I
I
think
think I agree. I think I agree with you that it's probably not the best James Bond experience, right?
I
Because it was quite constrained by technology, right?
Yeah,
That it,
yeah. I think that's exactly it, because I think that some of the ones that kind of came after, like Nightfire, for instance, they had the technology where they could do the cinematic cutscenes and the voices and all that kind
dialogue
of stuff. So it felt more like you were
in a
in a
movie,
yeah, in a Bond movie. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Which, for like, I'm definitely a Bond fan first and a hard gamer second, I guess.
yeah,
So when it comes to Bond games, that's kind of, but GoldenEye is such an interesting one because it has, like, I think the Bond brand is lucky to have GoldenEye in its association because of
yeah,
the
true.
legacy and the innovation that game has. And it is still, like, you know, on an emulator or something, if I want to pick up and play for like 10 minutes or something, I do tend to go to GoldenEye just because there's something about it that I can't just like jump into some other Bond games for just like 10 minutes or whatever, like I can
It,
GoldenEye.
I guess my point is that, you know, the back in those days, and the team had this immense freedom with the James Bond IP that they didn't
Mm.
necessarily get later on with the later games. So
Mm.
with the exception of Sean Connery, right? And so in the game, in the film, they talk about all Bonds being in the multiplayer. And so there was originally designed, you would get Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan, Roger Moore, and I'm forgetting his name, George Lazenby.
Oh, Timothy
How can
Dalton, I think. I think it was Timothy
yes,
Dalton.
no, you're right,
Yeah.
Timothy Dalton. I just, as an Australian, I was like, it was George. Wasn't it George? Was George not in it? No,
I don't
he
think so. I
wasn't.
think it was, yeah, the other four.
No, you're right. It was Timothy Dalton. Like, how could I forget Timothy? But they had that access to all those characters, right? Or
Mm.
at least they had access to everyone except Sean,
Mm.
right? And so Sean said no. Apparently, was the was the story, right?
Yeah,
But
which is crazy.
you could play as Mayday, you could play as Jaws. You know, these Odd Job, all these characters were in there, and so they did this amazing job of taking the James Bond IP
Mm.
and that world and sort
Mm.
of throwing all those pieces in. And I think that's the kind of freedom that the future games didn't necessarily have.
100% agree. Yeah, you can definitely see, you know, they have these rules like in some of the later games where, you know, in multiplayer, for instance, if you're a good guy character, you can't kill another good guy character. So there's like a lock on, you know, how many people can be James Bond or, you know, Wei Lin, Christmas Jones, whatever, all these characters.
which you don't have
Right.
in GoldenEye. There is a freedom to it, which is really refreshing, actually, when you think
Mm.
of the brand being so tightly controlled, and I guess that would be Eon Productions' Danjak with those sort of insistences. But I'm really glad that you brought up the Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton thing, because I really wanted to ask you about that, because there is a little bit in the documentary about that, where I think it's Brett Jones, isn't it, talks about how there's one cartridge in the world that actually has them in it. Do you know where that is? You don't have to say where.
I have to plead the fifth on this. I
Yeah.
actually don't know, and I think Brett would be wise to keep it under the belt, under down on the down low, so to speak, because Sean Connery's estate might have words if that was to come out. So yeah, no. The fun story though is that the team had a ceremonial death match with the four Bonds. So the sort of big four of the team, you have Martin Hollis, Mark Edmonds, Carl Hilton, David Doak. They're some of the biggest, the head team that were building the game. They had a ceremonial multiplayer death match with those Bond characters and sort of said goodbye to them because they got a fax from HQ that they weren't allowed to have the rights to their likeness. So fun times.
It's a real holy grail, that cartridge,
Yeah,
if it is still out there somewhere. Was
I
there anyone actually of the contributors? Was there any one or two that you were really it was a geek out moment meeting? Any of the development team?
All of them was an absolute buzz, right?
Yeah.
Getting to meet, this is the game that I played the most, that I've burned the most hours to. So getting to meet and have dinner, I'd say actually fun. It wasn't actually them. I met David Wise. Do you know who David Wise is?
No.
So he's the composer behind the music of Donkey Kong Country.
Oh, right.
Do you know the game Donkey Kong Country?
Yeah.
On the Nintendo the SNES.
Yeah.
One night I was in Nottingham catching up with David Doak, who is one of the designers on GoldenEye, and he's a good friend now. And we just happened to meet up with David Wise, the composer of Donkey Kong Country's music, some of the most evocative game music ever made, and just had dinner, just hung out, and so that was kind of that out of body moment. It's like I'm in gaming royalties company here. So getting to meet Grant Kirkhope and Graham Norgate, the composers of the music on the game. They've gone on to work on Mario and Time Splitters and Raving Rabbids and all kinds of huge franchises. We met Mick Gordon, who's an Australian composer. He composed the music to Doom, the new Doom games, which are tremendously successful and important titles in the industry. And yeah, just the idea that I would be able to hang out with the creators of GoldenEye, really, it is one of those moments where you have to sort of kick yourself and pinch yourself and make sure you're not dreaming.
It's so cool, because I do love as well in the documentary how obviously it's talking a lot about the game, but you also follow what members of that team did afterwards as well, and it's kind of personal in a way. And I think David Doak in particular has some really nice, just kind of unfiltered, I guess, kind of observations and about what happened next. And you talk about Perfect Dark, you talk about Time Splitters, which were games that I loved, still some of my very favorite first person shooters, as well as the business side. I think that the film juggles a lot of different narratives, and it all sort of coalesces so effortlessly. It's really great. But I love that personal element of talking about what those people in that team did next, which was really cool.
It was kind of the story under the story in that the industry, the games industry, can be fairly ruthless and cutthroat, and the industry in the UK has gone through quite a lot of change and consolidation and sort of money. It's kind of, this movie is somewhat of a story of the games industry growing up into the juggernaut that it is today. Like, it dwarfs Hollywood. It dwarfs Hollywood now, right? And when GoldenEye came out, that was kind of at the tipping point where games stopped being toys or children's playthings, and they started becoming much more of an adult entertainment industry, for want of a better phrase. But and the GoldenEye team was so successful so early in their career, that they were kind of a bit doomed to failure in a sense, or frustrated to, they would find it frustrating to repeat that success. But not only that, they would find themselves sort of consumed by the corporations that would come in to the games industry and sort of picked apart ruthlessly by them. And the company, some of the founders or the designers of GoldenEye would form Free Radical Design, would go on a roller coaster ride that it's still on today, mind you. So that there is, post this film being picture locked, the story continues on. Free Radical has risen from the ashes, right?
Yeah.
So the team that brought us GoldenEye and Time Splitters is back again, right?
Yeah.
So the story continues, Calvin. It never ends. The saga of GoldenEye we'll have to make a sequel now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I expect a sequel to come. If that remaster comes out, that's.
That's right.
Oh, sorry.
The story continues. No, it's just it never ends.
I know we're very short on time at the moment. I don't want to take up more of your time. Do we have time for just a quick fire questions just to finish up?
Take as long as you like.
Okay, because there's some things I have to ask, knowing that you're a huge GoldenEye fan. Favorite single player level?
Train.
Oh, okay.
Mostly for the music.
Yeah, no, same. I like the linear kind of nature of it. You're just like going straight down. Yeah.
Massively challenging as well. Like hugely challenging to get it right.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Your favorite multiplayer character of choice?
I mean, I'd probably go Trevelyan. Just to be, a little dark.
Interesting. Okay. And is that ever since you were younger? Like that's always been your character?
Yeah, I like the wild card. I like to be the wild card in the deck, so I'll go Trevelyan. A bit unpredictable. He's a bit unpredictable, old Trevelyan.
Favorite weapon?
I mean, I want to say RCP-90, but that's kind of taking the easy way out, isn't it? I'd probably go the Uzis, the ZMG, ZMGs. Yeah, they were. You remember the sound of the ZMGs? They were. Yeah. It was just so much fun. So much fun.
Your favorite cheat?
Oh, I'd probably go. It's the invisible. It's kind of the fantasy in the real world that everyone would have. What if you could be invisible in the real world, right? You get to live that in the world of GoldenEye, where you go invisible and you can just slap guards all over the place, right? And you just start. That is the GoldenEye in a nutshell, isn't it? You just play. It's a playground, and it's a sandbox, and you just have fun, experiment with it. So yeah, invisible, because you can do anything in there.
The most difficult level, in your opinion?
Jungle, I found frustrating, and I think it was potentially because it was one of the lesser well-designed levels, and potentially a little disorientating. And I'll say that.
This one, you might not be able to answer, but if you have played any others, your favorite Bond game besides GoldenEye?
Yes, I'm going to have to say no. I
haven't played that one.
Yeah, and I knew this question. I knew I was going to get skewered on this, so thank you, Calvin.
Yeah, I was really hoping that 007 Racing would have been the only other Bond game that you would have played. You would have had to have said that one.
No. You know what happened to me, Calvin? Because when GoldenEye came out, I did kind of went on the same journey as some of the people in the film, where I'm like, what is the team doing next? Or when is the next James Bond film? And I remember Mission Impossible coming out on the Nintendo 64. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I never
It
played
was,
it, but I know of
it
it.
was,
Yeah.
it was absolute rubbish.
Oh no.
Absolute rubbish, right? And I was kind of in that, Nintendo versus Sony thing, where,
Mm.
and because remember Sony came in, swooped in and took over the franchise. So
Yeah.
the game that came out next, which is Tomorrow Never Dies, was on
Yeah.
PlayStation, right? And then
Yeah.
I was a Nintendo enthusiast, right? So I
Yeah.
kind of on principle was detached from the James Bond franchise for a while there, and that's kind of why it ended up this way,
Yeah.
I guess.
I feel like I might know the answer to this last one. Your favorite Bond film and favorite Bond film actor.
You know what? I think I'm going to surprise you. My and it's at saying this to you, I probably should feel ashamed of myself a little bit, because I know this is not up in the pantheon of great Bond films, but it was the first film I ever saw, and it was kind of this moment. I remember seeing a man fall out of a blimp, and I remember. Can you remember what it is? Can you remember
It
what it
is
is?
A View to a Kill.
It is A View to a Kill, right? Roger Moore, right? And it is not
Amazing.
known as one of the great. It was not known as one of the great James Bond movies. Probably rightfully so, but again, it's that indelible impression that you get as a young person, where you see you're like, oh my God, this international world of mystery has just opened up in front of my eyes. I'm like, I want to know what's coming. Like, this is amazing. This is incredible. Like, these people are falling out of blimps into the ocean. Like, what the hell is going on here? I want to know more. Right. And then I saw some of the Timothy Dalton ones, which were probably a little too bleak for me as a young person. So I wasn't really resonating with those films as much as the Roger Moore films. I kind of love Roger Moore's camp and his charm. There's something to that. Where does he rank on? I can't quite remember for you. Where does Roger Moore rank?
He's my favorite.
There you go.
Him
There
and
you go.
Pierce in a second. I think we have very similar tastes, because I was very much the same. Like, I like License to Kill now, but the Dalton ones were always a bit too. I like my Bonds when they're kind of a bit campier, lighter, so just more like action, fun. And I think that Roger and Pierce do that better than the others.
Yeah.
So is Roger your favorite Bond actor?
Yeah. He is.
Nice.
I think he is. And I think he's a little more charming, or there's something about his style that was a little more accessible. Pierce was great. I loved Pierce, and GoldenEye was a huge influence, but it was more the game than the movie. The movie's great, but yeah, for me, it's Roger Moore. And don't even get me started on the new guy.
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig. Don't even get. I'm not quite convinced that we've gone down the right road with James Bond, with the new guy.
Have you seen all of the Craig ones? Did you see No Time to Die?
I have seen them, and I think it started well, but it feels reactionary to me, to the Jason Bourne style, the sort of Christopher Nolan style filmmaking. It doesn't feel true to James Bond.
Yeah.
And look, maybe we needed to evolve. Maybe it needs to evolve, but there is some real charm to those old movies, and maybe just like the game, maybe they're best left in the past. I don't know.
Maybe. You will be happy to know that A View to a Kill does have a dedicated fan base. I know a fair few people out there who would rate it amongst their favorites.
That's great to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one more question, and then I promise I'll let you go.
Sure.
Just
No problem.
GoldenEye film versus game. The game was certainly more iconic for you when you were younger, I guess. Did you see the film when it came out? Because obviously the game came out 2 years later. It's kind of like a very delayed movie tie-in product. Did you remember seeing the film, or did you come to the film after discovering the game?
I came to the film after the game.
Wow. Okay.
And and again, I'm not James Bond aficionado by any means, not like yourself, but I think I even saw Tomorrow Never Dies before I saw GoldenEye.
Oh wow.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So, but I loved the film. I think it's the best Brosnan film by far. So, and especially better than the later movies, which seem to go off a campy cliff at some point. I remember a sort of crystal castle and a invisible Aston Martin in one of them.
Dine of the Day. Yep, that's that one.
But it's something a bit I need to do is to check out the games of the Brosnan era that were non-movie licenses, because based on many people's reviews, including yourself, there's a really great film in those games of that era that weren't based off movies.
Oh yeah. No, I think of that, like the Brosnan era had the best Bond games by far, like when compared to Craig and then what came before, where I guess the technology just wasn't there before GoldenEye. But it's definitely check out Nightfire, and then maybe if you love it, you can make a documentary on that. I know I would appreciate that.
Can I give you one question before I let you go?
Oh sure, yeah.
The IO interactive game, we haven't heard much. Do you know? Are you familiar with the Hitman franchise and the previous work of IO Interactive?
Yes, I've played a fair bit of Hitman actually, so I'm very excited that they have the Bond license. Actually, are you?
It seems like a good fit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Hitman has a great sort of. There's a lot of James Bond in that character. He's a bit of a stealthy assassin at the end of the day. Those games feel a little excessively violent. There's quite a bit of excessive violence, so I'm not sure that would translate hugely well. But I mean, that's part of GoldenEye's story too, that the violence didn't really gel well with the powers that be. But I'm generally optimistic that James Bond has found a home and that we will get a decent James Bond game again.
No, I really hope so. It's been such a drought, 10 years since 007 Legends, which was not a good game to end on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But who knows? Hopefully we'll be playing GoldenEye soon on Xbox, on Nintendo Switch. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for all of it. Yep.
Okay, well, Drew, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today. Like I said, I saw the film last night and I absolutely love it. I think you've made a definitive making of product here. There's so much love in it. The narrative works. It kind of just flies by as a film. Like you just want there to be another 2 hours afterwards because there's so many great stories and bases covered. So thank you so much. Where can people find the film if they want to watch it?
So we're releasing June 27th on all digital platforms. It'll be on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, and then you'll be able to check it out at a broadcaster near you shortly. There's some more exciting news coming in the coming months. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Oh, stay tuned for that then.
Thank you so much, Kelvin, for having me. I'm a massive fan, so really, really enjoyed the chat.
Oh no, thank you so much. It's always amazing to talk about GoldenEye, and particularly with someone who knows it far better than I do, like you do. So thank you.
Have a good one.
See ya.
I will be leaving links below to the film's social media pages, as well as the website where you can find out more details on how to watch the film yourself. And while you're down there, you can also click the subscribe and Mrs. Bell notification buttons to stay super up to date on future video uploads that I'm going to be making on this channel. And also below there will be links to my own social media pages, including my Facebook page, my Twitter page, my Patreon page, my Instagram page, and my Letterboxd page. So if you are on any of those platforms, please do consider finding me on those and following me there. And with all that being said, and until next time, Bond fans, so long for now.